From Atlanta, Georgia, welcome to Fearfully and Wonderfully Me, a podcast for women on leadership and life skills with Rhea Story. Rhea shares powerful life and leadership principles, helping you maximize your potential and become the woman God created you to be.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fearfully and Wonderfully Me, a podcast designed to empower women to become the leaders they are destined to be. Today's podcast episode, Unapologetically You, is inspired. I started thinking about this topic a few days ago from a comment that someone made on LinkedIn. If you follow me on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, you already know that I put out tons of inspirational quotes and thought-provoking quotes and a lot of just, content, articles and things, because that's really one of the ways that I add value to people, because I love the quote by Truett Cathy that says, someone needs encouragement if they're breathing. And I know that every single one of us need regular encouragement and uplifting thoughts and motivational quotes, because they inspire us and help keep us encouraged and motivated. And it's very important to surround ourselves with people who have great energy. So I love to put out some of that positive energy and just add value to others. So, but I do that at least every day, and sometimes a couple of different quotes or blogs or posts every day, because I know people are on at different times. And I put out a quote about forgiveness a couple of days ago. And it was a quote by Gandhi, who talks about forgiveness is an attribute of strong people. And one of the people that I'm connected with on LinkedIn made a comment about that said, they disagreed with Gandhi and just said, just because you don't forgive someone doesn't mean you aren't a strong person. And I'm not getting into the details here of forgiving someone and whether that makes you strong or weak. My point here is that the person on LinkedIn, it was LinkedIn, disagreed with both the quote I shared and the post that I shared to go along with it. And that's absolutely okay. I really like that. In fact, I encourage the people I'm connected with who are following me to add value to others and share their thoughts on what I'm sharing. We kind of have a little bit of dialogue and interaction there, because I recognize that there are different perspectives and different ways of seeing things. So I always welcome kind of that dialogue and interaction on any of the posts that I do. And so this person just clearly disagreed with both the post and the quote by Gandhi, and that's absolutely okay. And I responded to the comment. It wasn't like a very negative comment. It was just simply sharing that person's perspective that they disagreed. And I started thinking about that. There was a time where I would not share quotes or perspectives or posts that might be a little bit controversial or that might invite someone with a different perspective to comment. Because at some point, even several years ago, I was not confident in who I am and what my message is and who my message is for. And so because I lacked that confidence, I would find myself maybe not sharing as much because I was afraid it would make me vulnerable, right? I didn't want to share something that other people might disagree with, because I wasn't yet confident in my stance and my message and who I was talking to. And the whole scenario over a couple of days really made me think how much I've grown and how much more confident I am in who I am and what my message is and who that message is trying to reach. And I realized that as I've grown more in that confidence, that I have really stepped up in terms of what I share and how I share it, because I recognize that doesn't make me vulnerable. I think in our society, I've said this before, we often have the perspective that vulnerability is a weakness, and it's not a weakness. It's a strength when we can be vulnerable, because it means we can open up and we can be ourselves. We're not afraid to be ourselves, whether that means sharing some of the not so pretty parts sometimes, or the not so pretty pieces of us. And I've shared before, I believe our scars make us stronger. And so, I've grown in what I share, and sharing some of those flaws and not imperfections and scars from the past, because I recognize that those things are a part of who I am. And so my whole point on today's podcast is challenging you to think about, are you showing up in every dimension of your life unapologetically you? And what I mean by when I say that is not that we aren't always trying to improve on who we are and our character and growth. We always should be striving to improve that and grow that and develop that. But we also should not be afraid to be authentic and to be ourselves. And I think particularly as women, sometimes we fall into that category of trying to filter who we are, because we almost have a tendency to want everybody to like us. And what I've realized is that, number one, not everybody's going to like you anyway. Not everybody's going to like me, because we all have different values, right? Everybody has different values, and because we have different values, you're not going to agree with everybody else's values, and that's okay. What I'm saying here is it's important for you to identify what your values are, and then unapologetically hold fast to those values, right? Figure out what makes you you, and then don't apologize for being that. Just like with my post on LinkedIn, when someone disagrees with me, I don't apologize for sharing my perspective, because that's my perspective. Now, everyone or anyone is certainly welcome to have a different perspective and disagree, and we can have dialogue about that, and maybe I can empathize with a different perspective. It doesn't necessarily mean I change my opinion or my position. But what I'm saying here is that the more authentically we can show up as who we are in every dimension of life, and the more we mature and grow our character, the more we are confident in who we are as an individual. And that's so important, because every single one of us have a purpose, and when we can identify our values and not apologize for holding fast to those values, then that allows us to step more fully into our purpose, because we're not going around trying to soften the message or filter the message because we want everybody to like us. I just finished reading a couple of weeks ago 2 really good books by Bob Goff. The first one I read was actually his second book, called Everybody Always. And I enjoyed it so much that I immediately ordered the first book he had written, which was Love Does. And I really enjoyed both of these books. Really some great thoughts and great stories and great quotes. And one of my favorite quotes from one of his books, and I don't remember which book it came from, but he says, "When we act like someone we're not, it's often because we are not happy with who we are." And I love that, because I think a lot of times if we're not happy in who we are and where we are, then we try to filter that. Maybe we are almost apologizing for who we are because we're afraid people won't like that side of us, maybe. And so we find ourselves putting on a mask and acting like someone we're not, because we're not really truly in alignment with who we are. We're not happy and confident in that space. So I really want to challenge you, as you go through your day to day, just think about, are you showing up in any dimension of life as not authentically you? Are you showing up in any dimension of life apologetically you, right? Are you showing up where you're almost apologizing to someone for who you are and what you believe in? We all identify our own values, and that's the important thing, because once we identify them, then we can hold fast to them. Until next time.
Start increasing your influence and maximizing your potential with Ria's audiobooks. Available at audible.com, amazon.com, and iBooks. Please visit riastory.com to learn about Ria's books, resources, speaking, and training programs. Thanks for listening.